welcome another conversation with CEP, and today we're really delighted to be joined by Margaret Mizen from the Mizen Foundation, and we're talking about crime and punishment and Christian attitudes to criminals. I'm wondering, welcome Margaret, if you could introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me on here today. So my name is Margaret Mizen and I am from the Mizen Foundation. I live in South East London in the borough of Lewisham. I'm the mother of 9 children. I have 7 sons and 2 daughters, so life's quite busy, and obviously I've got grandchildren and a great grandchild now. But my life is really devoted to the charity now, and most of what I do is based around our message of forgiveness, peace and hope, which is what our charity is all about. So that's a little bit of me. I could talk for hours, but I don't want to bore you all.
Thank you so much. So you said you had 9 children, and one of them is called Jimmy, and that's the kind of the impetus for the Mizen Foundation, in memory of Jimmy. Can you tell me about Jimmy and what he was like as a person?
Oh gosh, yeah, I can talk about Jimmy for hours. Jimmy was absolutely beautiful. Do you know what? I remember the day he was born as if it was yesterday. It was Cup final day, May the 9th, 1992. And Jimmy bounced into this world very quickly. I mean, I got to the hospital at 2, and by 2:30 he was born, a 10-pound-4 bouncing baby. And from the moment he was born, my husband and I knew there was something different about Jimmy. I can't even put my finger on it, but we used to have a laugh about it and sit there and say, there's something different about Jimmy. And he was just always so good. I mean, he's just such a delight to be around. He was loved by everybody, from his school teachers to his friends' parents to my friends. Just everybody loved Jimmy, and there was just a kindness about him, but also a strength. And Jimmy will be our go-to, if you like. So if we were in a restaurant, being a large family, you might want extra rolls or extra poppadoms. We'd always get Jimmy to go and do it for us because we'd all be embarrassed, but not Jimmy. He'd just go and, excuse me, can we have more poppadoms, please? And but he also had a faith, and I share this, and in fact I shared it at Jimmy's funeral about Jimmy's faith, because he was never embarrassed by it. So Jimmy would come to church with us and always be smiling. Sometimes he was an altar server, maybe sometimes he'd do the collection, but he was always there with this great big smile. And we also used to go to a Catholic conference every year. It was to Walsingham, and Jimmy loved it. But it wasn't so much about joining in with the other young people. He liked to help put up the tents in the family camp and things like that, or make the breakfasts, and he just loved all of it. And I shared with young people after Jimmy was killed, hold on to God as our Jimmy did, because sometimes there is nothing else to hold on to. But he was just a joy. From the moment he was born till he took his last breath, he was a joy to everybody that knew him. A 6'4" gentle giant, actually.
Wow, he sounds really special. Thank you so much for telling us about him. So obviously you've sort of mentioned that Jimmy has died. Can you tell us a bit about what happened?
Yeah, sure. Let me take you to the day before he was killed, if I may, really, because it's, in a way, it's a special day for us as a family, because it was Jimmy's 16th birthday. And I suppose, being the parents of 9 children, our children didn't really get luxuries for birthdays or Christmases. It's always been a standing joke. They got clothes. And for Jimmy's birthday, we bought him a pair of jeans and a shirt. But we did give him, for the first time ever, we gave him one added luxury, and it was an IOU for £500, because in the summer he was going to go to California with some friends to stay with some relations out there. Not our relations, the friends' relations. So you can imagine how excited he was with this IOU, which was pretty unknown in our family. But before he went out that night, he was going to a party, actually. The party was not actually a birthday party, but he was leaving school on the Monday to start his GCSEs. And Barry and I gave him a cuddle and before he went, because he came into our kitchen, all 6'4" of him, and he looked so handsome. But we gave him a cuddle and we told him how much we loved him and how proud we were of him. In a way, that was the last time my husband saw him alive. So that is a wonderful memory for my husband of us holding Jimmy. And not only did we tell him how much we loved him, he told us how much he loved us. And that kind of has been in my mind. And I think that comforted me so much after Jimmy was killed. But sadly, the next day he got up, and on a normal Saturday, because it was a Saturday, May the 10th, 2008, he would have gone to work with his dad. Barry's a shoe repairer. Jimmy would have gone to work with him as his Saturday boy, but he asked for the day off. It's my birthday, I'm going to a party, and we think he was going to meet a young lady on the Saturday afternoon, asked for the day off. And And Barry gave it to him, but I thought he'd stay in bed till lunchtime, having gone to a party, but he didn't. He got up early. One of his brothers was going around the corner to a to a cafe for breakfast. Came home. Then he said to me, "Mum, I'm 16 now. I want to do the lottery. How do you do it? Is it today? Is it tomorrow?" Oh, do you know what? We had such a laugh about it. I didn't really know, but we worked it out what you had to do. And he went round the corner with another brother to buy his first ever lottery ticket. They also went into the bakery next door. While they was in there, a boy came in. It's really difficult to explain what this boy was like, because actually he was a known, I suppose, thug is what I would say for me. He was a known thug in the area, and there was a bit of history with him and another of my children, where he'd beaten one of my sons up and also mugged him for some money. But he wanted to stand where Jimmy was standing, just a kind of if you can imagine someone going into the bakery and then swearing at Jimmy because he wanted to stand where Jimmy was standing. He kind of swore, I'm not going to swear, I don't like swearing, but said to Jimmy, "Get out the effing way." And this kind of, when Jimmy said, "Say please," which is what Jimmy did say, and we know that from witnesses, this worked the boy up. Went outside the bakery, shouting for Jimmy. And we know he wanted Jimmy, not my other son, because Jimmy's so tall. And outside the bakery, shouting for the big one, "Hey, you big man, come out for a fight." Jimmy didn't want to have a fight. He'd never been in a fight. And the boy went back in the bakery, got a key out of his pocket and started jabbering it in the faces of my two sons. Got some drinks out of the drinks cabinet, started banging them over the head. And by this time, my sons have kind of managed to push him out of the bakery, close the doors to stop him coming back in. But this boy just went absolutely berserk. He completely lost it. And I do share this with young people about our emotions and how sometimes through our emotions we can do things we don't necessarily mean to. So what the boy did then was he picked up a big sign outside the bakery and smashed it against the bakery door. Pushing my two sons backwards, he's run in, chased them around the counter. We think it was Jimmy who was after, because what he's done, he's thrown the big sign at Jimmy. We think Jimmy's put his hands up to protect himself, and then he's picked up a glass dish, a dish full of hot sausages, and thrown it up at Jimmy's head, thrown it so hard, and it shattered on Jimmy's neck. Some of the glass actually went into the wall behind Jimmy, but a tiny piece of glass cut through Jimmy's carotid artery in his jugular vein in his neck and got stuck in his spine. With that, the boys run out. Jimmy, by this time, was just so scared that what he's done is gone round the back of the counter, found a cupboard and locked himself in a cupboard. The boy then's run out, but another of my sons turned up, chased the boy, couldn't catch him, and then realised he didn't even know where Jimmy was, went back to the bakery and followed this trail of glass and blood and sausages to the back of the shop. Couldn't get the door open at first, though he knew Jimmy was there because there was a handprint in blood on the door. And when he eventually got it open, there was a frightened looking Jimmy. But when Jimmy saw it was his brother, this look of relief came on his face and he collapsed into his brother's arms and died. You know, that whole incident took 3 to 3.5 minutes. What was just an innocent trip around the corner to buy a lottery ticket ended up with a young man's life being taken for no reason other than this boy got angry. And that's when I talk to young people about, you know, sometimes we do things that we don't mean to, because although this boy, or this man as he was known as, wanted to hurt Jimmy, I don't think he really wanted to kill him, but he hurt him so much so that he ended up killing him. And that's what took Jimmy's life.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Thank you for sharing it with us. So terrible things have happened. But so the person that killed Jimmy was arrested and tried and found guilty and is currently in prison and was given a life sentence with a minimum of 14 years. In your opinion, do you think that was enough? Was that appropriate?
I think we have to look at it from a different angle. And what we wanted for Jimmy was justice. That was so important. So when we were going to the trial, the defence was trying to make it look like it was Jimmy's fault. And we knew it wasn't. We had lots of witnesses and we knew the kind of boy Jimmy was. And it was really hurtful and upsetting to hear the defence trying to say all these things. And they were trying to say it about Jimmy because he was so tall and the boy wasn't. And so when it eventually got to the jury were going out, you can imagine how we felt. My heart was pounding, and that was on a Thursday. And then the jury was still out and we had to go home and come back the next day. And, you know, you're waiting. And all of a sudden you get this message to say that the case in the against Jake Fari, the jury have reached a decision and we have to go back. When the jury said he was guilty of murder, that was justice. for me, I didn't care how many years he got. I wasn't interested. I wanted the truth about Jimmy to come out, the truth that Jimmy really was a nice boy, that everything that everyone had been saying was true. So we can look at it from different points of view. 14 years, well, a lot of my work now is before COVID was in prisons, going around sharing my story in prisons, even looking around prisons, and it's grim. 14 years in a prison is a long, long time. And you don't automatically come out after that time. You have to go to a parole hearing, etc. So Jake is probably in that process now, because what we're coming up for 13 years. But I don't actually think he's being that good at the moment, from what I read something in the papers a few months ago. But I think we have to look at what it means. Now, some people would say lock them up for life, throw away the key. But is that justice? No, justice is the truth for me. And I got the truth about my beautiful boy. So 14 years, doesn't matter. It's 14 years, 20 years. It's not going to bring Jimmy back at all.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of sentences, more so another area of the course is looking at the death penalty and the appropriateness of the death penalty. Obviously, it's kind of it wouldn't have actually happened in Britain because the death penalty isn't a sentencing option. But had that been an option, do you think, would you have pushed for it, or you don't think that's appropriate? What's your opinion?
I would not have pushed for it. I always said that I thought the death penalty was barbaric when I used to read about it in America. And I'm going back before Jimmy was actually killed. It was something I always said, I just don't think I believe in it. And when Jimmy was killed, a lot of people said to us, bring back the death penalty. He needs to be strung up. But no, because, we could, if Jake Farry's life was going to be taken at 12 o'clock tomorrow lunchtime, it wouldn't do the one thing that I want. It wouldn't bring my son back. It wouldn't really give me peace of heart. So I think when we talk about the death penalty, we're looking for closure, and there is never closure. There'll never be closure on what happened to Jimmy, whatever happens to Jake Farry. So I think that the death penalty is absolutely abhorrent, and I am very much against it. But I always listen to both sides. Of course, there is, other people think differently. But I follow this nun in America called Sister Helen Prejean. I don't know if you've heard of her. I mean, I follow the stories, and what she writes, it's absolutely barbaric. I wouldn't wish that for anybody, not for my very worst enemy. I wouldn't wish that. So for me, no, I'm not for the death penalty, but I'm up to listen to other people.
Great. So as you're talking, I can sort of hear like, to me, I would say it's like the freedom of forgiveness in your voice and your words, and it's so inspirational. But let's talk about forgiveness a bit more. So you've actually publicly stated that you forgive Jake Farry, although you've said that you wouldn't, it's unlikely that you'd meet him, I believe. So what to you, what does forgiveness mean, and how has it improved your situation today?
Let me just tell you how we got to the stage of forgiveness first, because when Jimmy was killed that day, Saturday, the last thing that came to my mind was forgiveness. I didn't have time to think about anything. There was people coming to our house, the police were around, the press wanted to speak to us. But we spoke to the press on the Sunday, the day after Jimmy was killed. We went to Mass, and we didn't expect the press to be there, or even know we were Catholics or anything. But we went to Mass, and after we came out and we spoke to them, I spoke about anger, how anger breeds anger and bitterness, and I'm not going to go down the road of being angry, and a couple of other things. And the next day we were headline news that we forgave the boy that killed our son. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I looked at Barry and said, well, I didn't say that. Did you say that? And neither of us had. But because the press picked up on it, it kind of, I don't know, made me start thinking about forgiveness. And I knew that if I didn't forgive the boy that killed Jimmy, I'd never smile again. I knew that I would never be able to do all the things that I need to do. I've got a family that needs me. Would I ever be able to be with them and love them and show them the love, or would I be sitting there really seething all the time, crying? And I didn't want to be like that. So by forgiving Jake, it allows me to smile, but it also allows me to get up in the mornings and see the sun shining, the flowers blossoming, or even the rain gently coming down that I couldn't do if I didn't forgive the boy who killed him. And it doesn't mean to say I want to be his best friend. I don't have a need to see him. And people say to me, Margaret, you have forgiven this boy, so would you meet him? And I speak honestly, and I say, my family know how I feel as well. it's not that I don't want to meet him. I could meet him, and I'd love to ask him some questions. But I do have a large family, and I've seen the pain in my children's eyes. So if we ever got that opportunity to meet him, I would sit down with the family and we'd talk about it. But if one of them said to us, Mum, Dad, I don't want you to meet him, then I wouldn't. I'd never cause my children any more pain, because I think that would be the cruelest thing I could do. But forgiveness it's how do you explain it to young people? It's like lifting this big weight off your shoulders. And I do smile, and I laugh again. It doesn't mean to say my heart's not breaking. It doesn't mean to say that I don't feel the loss of Jimmy, because I feel it every single day. But I do smile, and life is better for me for forgiving the boy.
I'm really pleased that you've found something to make life a bit better after such a horrific experience. So you've obviously you've talked about your faith and how you're practicing Catholics. I wonder if because the people that are going to be looking at this will be looking for what we call sources of authority. So it could be Bible verses, or it could be church teachings. Is there like maybe one or two that's particularly encouraged you or strengthened you in your position in the way that you've dealt with the aftermath of Jimmy's death?
Do you know, after Jimmy was killed, my husband and I would read, we read something, it's called a Magnificat. It's a little daily readings book, and we would read it every day. But every day it would jump out to us that it was talking to us. But the one Bible verse that sticks out, and this is not to do with Jimmy really, I think something over the years, was Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me, all you are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. And that's something that has helped me over the years, because I'm a mother of 9, large family. We have ups and downs. Family life is just, well, full of ups and downs. I could do you a whole little speech on that as well, if you like. But there have been times when I've been really tired and I've been really, really weary, and I would read that, and I would get all the comfort that I needed and the energy and strength to do the things that I had to do. So I suppose that's what I kept going back to after Jimmy, because I was weary, I was tired. I didn't want to get out of bed some days, and then but I suppose what also helped me was my prayers. It was the prayers, because the prayers are also like a reading. We think of the Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven, and then I would know that my Jimmy was in heaven, and that prayer really helped me. So I suppose in a way it's the prayers as much as the verses. But honestly, in the days, the weeks, the months following, everything jumped out to us. Wow, it's as if God was speaking to us. And I can't even begin to tell you how our faith is what got us through those difficult times. Because, we have a faith, and some people will say, well, how can you call this a good God? Look what's happened in your life. But I say all the time, God is good. And when Jimmy died, he had his arms tightly around me, and he held me, and he got me through the most difficult time in my life, just by being there, just allowing me to pray to him, to gently talk to him. And in fact, I know that he told me Jimmy was in heaven. So I could name a few. There's John 10:10. There were just so many. But I think Matthew 11:28-30 is probably the best one for me. So it was a long answer, but sorry.
That's a really good answer, thank you. So talking about kind of the church in general, what the church can do, it's a well-known and horrific fact really that Jimmy wasn't the first person to have died in the way he did on London streets or in the UK, and he definitely hasn't been the last. What do you think the church can do to help create a world where things that happen to you don't happen, or happen a lot less frequently? What can everyone do kind of together to create that kind of fairer world?
You've just answered it in a way, because we look to the church to give us answers. They haven't always got the answers, because if everyone wanted it, it's something that we have to do ourselves. But I know something happened once before in my life, and I turned to the church and they didn't have an answer for me, and I couldn't believe it, because I thought, you've got the answers for everything. But our priests, our cardinal, our bishops, they don't like what's going on. The people in the churches don't like what's going on. But the only way to really stop what's happening on our streets is we all work together to make this a better world. And that's and particularly young people, because the way I see it, that if change is to come, it's to come from our young people standing together, united for change. And I think that's when things will start to get better. But we also live in a culture of blame, and we want to blame people when things go wrong. You know, it's usually the government's fault, and if it's not the government's fault, it's God's fault, and if it's not God's fault, it's our church's fault. It isn't any of those. It's nothing in particular that we can put our finger on, but it is uniting together that the changes will come. And I think they will. And we know at the moment in London, things are pretty bad. You know, we're hearing almost daily that someone has been killed. I pray with all my heart that this is going to stop, and I think it will, but I don't know when. But yeah, let's unite together. All our young people come together to say we want to stop knife crime, we want to stop the violence. And I talk about violence more than knife crime because Jimmy wasn't killed with a knife. But yeah, it's about coming together. But I feel our church would love to do more, but I don't think they know what to do. And that's just all the young people that are in our churches are the ones that use your voices. Shout and scream, you know, what can we do to bring change? And there are many, many young people working so hard, I have to say, as well. And there's lots of organisations, charities who are also working hard. But it's just coming together, getting rid of the blame game and just standing, holding hands, united.
Great. So one of the last question is one of the things that one of the organisations that are working so hard for these aims is the Mizen Foundation, and it's something that you and your family are doing. And I know that schools can have you either in or via Zoom or you know, just work more closely with you, because you've got loads of amazing stuff to say on the topic. What do you do with the Mizen Foundation? What is it?
Well, we've kind of got various things, really. We've got our Safe Haven program, which is where we are trying to make our community safer by having making shops places of safety. So a sticker will be on a shop that says Safe Haven for Jimmy, and a young person knows they can run in that shop if they're in trouble, and the shopkeeper promises to call the police or the parents. So it's kind of small. It's very much in our local area. We want to spread it further, and that's something we're looking to do. But at the moment, most of our work is the work that Barry and I do, and one of our sons is go around to schools. So we travel the country, going into schools, sharing Jimmy's story, and just sharing it. We can share from 2 points of view, because some schools don't want to hear our faith, and I understand that, but we've also got a message there to share of choices, etc. But most of our work is around forgiveness, peace and hope in schools. And as I say, we travel the country and we just share Jimmy's story, the story of this lovely young man. We also share the story of Jake, but we also share about how we coped in these difficult times, because we have to learn how to manage difficult situations. And sometimes after we've shared for an hour and we show some films of Jimmy, the schools will ask us to go into individual classes, because we can do things around crime and punishment, but we can do things around our faith. So we cover lots of areas. But I also go into a lot of primary schools. In fact, my work is mainly in primary schools, sharing with young people. And I know some schools might get a bit wary. How are you going to share this story, this horrible, gory story of a boy that died? But you share it in such a way that it's age appropriate. And the questions you get from some of the young people is just amazing. And they're going to be our change makers, because I do challenge them as well to go out and be the change makers and peacemakers. Because our message, as I say, is forgiveness, peace and hope. And I think if we look at those 3 words, forgiveness, if we all forgave a little bit more, wouldn't this be a better world? And peace. I promised Jimmy on the night he died that I will dedicate my life to working for peace. And don't we all want safer, more peaceful communities? I know I do. And then I use the word hope, because I have hope in my heart for a better tomorrow for all our young people. So as I say, that's very quickly what the Mizen Foundation is about. But it's, as I say, going into schools now. Obviously with the COVID and the pandemic is a little bit harder. So we are doing Zooms with schools at the moment. And what's been happening, we've done a Zoom with, say, a whole year group. And then we've gone back a week or 2 later to going like Zooming into individual classes. It's been working quite well. But I will never stop. I promised Jimmy that I will do this work and I will never stop. And I'm grateful that we've been given a bit of a platform, really, to share our son's story, because there are many out there who are not given the platform. So do look up the Mizen Foundation. There's plenty. You know, if you look up Barry and Margaret Mizen or Jimmy Mizen, there's plenty on the internet about us. And do get in touch. That would be lovely.
Yeah. We're going to put the contact details as the next slide on this video so people can get in touch. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been really sad, but also so inspirational. Thank you for allowing something good to come out of something so awful. And it's been really lovely to meet you.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for asking me.